Okay, this guy's struggle is going to be represented by Leo. And that struggle is Leo at 28 degrees. Okay, so his struggle is Leo. How is he going to overcome this struggle? He's going to overcome this struggle by being a Leo. He's going to try to present himself in the biggest, grandest, bestest manner he can. We know that. Where is he going to do this? He's going to do this in the sign of Gemini. 15 degrees Gemini. Okay, so we got that guy going down to the right.
First planet.
This person's chart, all of it is above the horizon. Very much a day chart. So he's going to be high profile. It also says something here that's truly unique that you need to understand more than anything else about a rising sign. Okay? This is the only time you'll do this, but it's extremely important that you recognize that the ruler of the rising sign, whatever sign it's in, takes on that personification much more than the rising sign itself, unless the rising sign and its ruler are the same. So if it's Cancer rising with the moon here, that person would be their own entity. This guy is a Gemini by nature because his rising sign is 10. So wherever your rising sign is, the ruler of it, where that sign is who you truly personify. People might see that, but you actually personify that. You personify the planet and the sign it's in. That's who you truly are.
You mean like that would be a Gemini person?
He's a Gemini person. Leo rising, but he's very Gemini. And when I start telling you how much Gemini, you'll see it as it unfolds. So there's a great deal of Gemini in this man's chart.
So
he's who he is.
just to clarify that, if it were, say, Pisces rising, then wherever Jupiter was, that's what
That would be the signature of the person.
Yeah, okay.
So where's your Jupiter?
Oh, in Leo.
Right, so there's a Leo persona about
Yeah.
you that people get. And look, you took charge of this, you started to do other things
Yeah.
with it. This is what that's about. You always ask good, intelligent questions. You show your Leo side through the Piscean softness.
Okay.
That's what this is.
Would I,
Definitely.
would I also be a Leo? Even I have moon
I
in.
don't care about the moon. What's your rising
The
sign?
rising sign is Cancer.
Now I need to know.
So the moon is in Leo. So
You're
then
a
I
lot
would
Leo.
show a Leo side like.
You are a Leo sign. It shows definitely that personification. And you do not hesitate to be in front of the class to ask questions and talk and do things. What's your rising sign?
I don't need
Barbara?
it right now.
My rising sign's Leo.
Leo, where's the sun?
So the sun's in Taurus.
It's in Taurus. So you're actually more of a Taurian than you are a Leonian. You have the Leo pride, but you have the Taurus tenacity to get what you want to get and go after. You see?
And how pretty her
What
colors.
about
Very Venusian.
what?
And she'd be earthy. practical.
Has a more practical earthy side. She does. What's your rising sign?
Aquarius.
Aquarius. So where's Saturn?
Saturn's in my third house retrograde.
In Aries.
Oh, it's second.
Give me a sign.
Taurus.
It's in Taurus. See, so although that Aquarius is rising, there's a soft heart for the world. That's Saturn and Taurus, so you're much more of a Taurian nature,
I know, I'm so
more practical. See, we'll do it from here. So, here's a Sagittarian because she's Aries rising with Mars and Sagittarius. So she acts a lot like a Sagittarian. You,
You're talking about me?
Yes.
absolutely.
I'm what?
Like a Sagittarian.
She reminds me of a
Yeah,
Sagittarius.
I always thought you were Sag until.
Everybody thinks you're Sag, and because your Mars is there, which is your rising sign.
Jupiter rules my charts in Scorpio.
So, but where's your rising?
Pisces.
Pisces rising,
Yeah,
and Jupiter in Scorpio.
yeah.
So you have that strong, secretive, quiet nature about you, but what you learn, you get.
Yeah,
But you have that nice, soft, compassionate Pisces that
Here we
tells
all-
you, this is how
three of
I'll
us
beat
sitting
the
here,
game.
right?
This is how I'll overcome struggle. I'll see if I can't be water in the stream. I can wear it down with all that. And with that deep Pisces point, is it?
Gemini.
Gemini rising?
Pisces, but the Jupiter's in
Jupiter
Gemini.
and Gemini.
We all-
And look at you, you even look Gemini-ish in a way, because you have that nice,
She
you
is a
know,
little
the
bit
nice
like-
human face look kind of
She
there.
looks a little
That's
bit
it.
like a pixie.
Yeah, you have a pixie look.
Like a,
It's interesting
What
that
is
three
it?
Pisces
Got
are-
Pisces.
We all have
What's your
Pisces
rising?
rising.
Libra, and Venus is in what sign?
Libra.
It's in Libra, so it stays
Gemini.
there. So here you are, a very social conscious individual, a person who needs to get
And is that
along,
your-
be quiet, sensitive,
But Jupiter's in a
and
different
in
place.
touch with other people's feelings and their concerns, especially in more artistic endeavors and things like that. It's very much along that line.
Gemini rising, Mercury, Gemini.
It's the same thing, all about learning, teaching, understanding, getting a broader scope of what she already knows. Can't learn enough, because that's what Gemini's about. It wants to constantly explore. Remember, its joy is Moon Mars. Explore the parameters and remember everything you get when you go out there. Always conscious. So this is how that works. Did I miss anybody?
no, but I have a question. The fact that it's a Leo rising, even though it's a Gemini influence, how does that Leo then really, because there's a certain, you know, how Leo like to project.
Yes, there is a persona here that is projecting.
So how does that work in then with the?
Well, it's working because he's going to go to the 10th house. He's got all kinds of preferred honors coming his way. And we'll understand this as we unroll his chart. I'm going to get it done before she
Okay,
leaves.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I'm kind of...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So the idea that this presents us a very strong Gemini personality in the chart. So he now has this personification of learning, 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 learning. Gemini. Geminis constantly learn. They learn about everything they get in touch with. Men, women, children, games, processing, reading, it doesn't matter. Whatever they're into, it's almost everything goes into that Saturn karma bag. They get it all, they retain it, they hold it. This is all about learning, and this is what this guy is talking about right here.
What's the underlying energy of that house? Like Saturn is the underlying energy of.
This is Mars.
Oh,
The
that's
underlying
Mars.
energy is Mars' house, so he needs to achieve. Very much so. Now, here's an interesting point. His Mercury goes into the 9th house, does it not?
Uh-huh.
He spent a lot of time abroad studying.
Lucky guy.
And when he sat down to study, at one point, in England, for 9 months, he never left the library.
Wow.
I'm a lucky dog.
9 months.
His apartment must have been.
Right around the corner.
Are we supposed to
Is
guess?
there a Starbucks nearby?
What do you want?
Where's my coffee?
It doesn't matter if you do.
Why not?
All I want to do is present, I just want to present the chart. Who it is,
They could make their
who it is just shows itself a little bit more clear
by
down the
doing
road.
stuff like that. They can't think outside of the box.
Okay, let's take one more step and take another look.
Oh, yeah. It's,
We see that the 10th house is ruled by Taurus, and we see Venus is in its own sign. Okay? He was extremely close to his mother.
Oh,
Extremely. Married, but his mother was always considered his first and best influence.
Well, the 10th being mother.
yeah.
10th house being the mother. His brothers of the 3rd house were not as important.
Oh,
Why can I say that? Because you can notice that the brothers
proximity.
are quite removed by
Yeah.
just a house.
Yeah,
And the ruler is the connection here.
yeah.
So you can see that he is much more closer to the Taurus than he is the Libra. If it were the other way around, then he'd be more closer to the brothers and not so much to the mother.
Oh, that's interesting.
I didn't quite get that.
Say that again.
Well, it made sense, but I don't
Yeah.
know if I would.
How come he
He
isn't
figured
close
it
to his
out.
brothers as much?
Well,
Because the ruler of his brothers are further away,
Oh, the ruler.
and the
has a-
ruler here is directly under the mother's sign
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
It's off.
So they're absolutely
I got
connected.
it.
And over here, you see there's almost like an opposition going
That's
on.
right. It's clear across the
So-
pond. So to speak.
His brothers wanted him to work on the farm. Said, you need to work on the farm. He said, like hell I do, I'm gonna go learn. I don't wanna go work on a farm, there's nothing on a farm. So he went off, he wanted to go learn and do things. By the way, his mother read him the Bible every single night. And he got to the point where he read the Bible every single day. He was extremely and devotedly religious in the fact he believed that what the Bible had to say was the absolute truth of the matter. He was very fundamental, but he did it in a different way. The ninth house is not only religion, but notice the Neptune here is going to point out metaphysics. He was very much into numerology,
Oh, is that during his
Kabbalah,
times?
astrology. Huge.
Oh.
What's that, the first, the 25-degree?
This is Pluto up here
Why did you put that in there?
because it's on the cusp of the 10th house, and he's a very famous individual.
Okay, thank you.
Was he the firstborn by any chance? Do you know? I was just curious because he was so close to his mom.
Might be, but he also had a lot of sickness. He was raised rather sick, and so he couldn't really work on the farm as much as he wanted. So she'd read to him and he'd learn things, and as he got smarter and smarter and smarter, he realized that part of being smart is not picking cotton.
Pluto wasn't in
Well, he was his
Taurus.
A long time ago.
So here you can see that kind of a situation. So here you can see he's much closer to mom than he's down here. Also, when he decided to get in the field he got into, what he did is for 10 straight years examine every single repetition situation in the field he was in because of his astrological reasoning and thinking.
Is this Maria?
He spent 10 years of researching. His favorite quote was about Ecclesiastes 3. Remember it? Through all seasons, turn, turn, turn. Everything will repeat. He spent 10 years going back in time, watching the stock market as it evolved over 125 years. When he got that together, he then went to England and for 9 months studied the English stock market. And because that went back even further. This is W.D. Gann's
How did he support himself?
one of the richest men in the world. Here's why. He was a stockbroker. W.D. Gann.
Later, oh, I see.
He started Gann. He started around 24 years of age. The first year, he invested $920 in cotton, and by the end of the year, he had amassed $30,000 and went from there. He was known as a Wall Street guru. He was known as the whiz kid. He lost a lot of money because of other things, and we're going to go there. But this guy, out of 286 trades a year, only lost 22 of them.
Did he make
That's
his money?
85%.
Did he make his money before he did all that research on it? It was after he did all the research. So then he didn't have that money beforehand.
He worked at a firm
Oh,
that dealt with stockbroking, because he was always interested in it.
I see.
Even as a kid, when he was selling newspapers, he'd linger by people talking
So we
stocks.
must see that in the chart somewhere.
So he was always interested in making money.
Yeah.
He was always interested in making
Saturn
money.
in the 8th, yeah.
But he wanted to know the science of it.
Mercury.
That's right, research.
He wanted to know the science of it.
Science of it.
So here now you can see, and he was one of the greatest predictors of all time for the stock market. This guy had it together. Now, here's some interesting notes that you might want to harbor. He died when he was 77 years old. If you look at the strongest planet in the chart, you'll notice that Venus,
Yeah.
when it goes to Mars, is 77 degrees. You'll notice also, too, that Mars is the ruler, one of the rulers of his 8th house.
How did Venus go to Mars?
77 degrees.
It's 77 degrees from Venus to Mars.
Saturn is in its fun joy there too.
Yeah, it's kind of doing some stuff with it. So Saturn is in the 8th house. It's in the sign of Aries. That's sort of what we call the Anureta. That's one of his killing planets.
Why did you choose Venus to count 77 points?
Well, because he died of stomach cancer, for one thing.
Oh, gosh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And Saturn.
And this is his 8th house of death as well as that.
Yeah. And so if Saturn is in the 8th house.
So Saturn's there. He's going to say he's going to die of some lingering illness.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Now, when we go to the progressed sun, when we move it to its progression 77 degrees, it'll trine Venus. I have that here. And at 77, your transit Jupiter conjuncts the 8th house.
Liberation.
And when was
So
he
the
born?
ruler of the 8th goes to the 8th, and Venus goes to Mars. Both beneficial planets are out of the picture. He can only leave.
Both beneficial planets.
Both beneficial planets. In other words, Jupiter went to the 8th house, Venus went to Mars.
Oh, I
They were
see.
taken out of the picture. The chart pretty good at showing us exactly what we want to find. Now, one more item. It was always called the accidental reflection, the other side of the house. And here you can see this, all this 9th house really activates this part of fortune, which is, of course, in Scorpio. Dig deep. Get as much information as you possibly can. And you can see he did just that. He went for it. He did all he could to get all he could. The other thing is a lot of astrologers don't do this, but early astrologers did, and it's up to you if you want to do it. But every planet has a trinal point. So, remember we taught the profitability of the
Yeah.
planets? Okay, that's where that comes from. But they all can do this. So you can look at the sun, and you can look at the sun trining Libra and also the 6th and 7th house. The only time he lost money was when he went into a partnership and they put money in an area where he did not want to put money. He went bankrupt from a partner. Can you see the partner bankrupt?
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking Saturn in the 8th.
Saturn in the 8th took him out twice. He trusted 2 different partners. They took him out twice. He then said, no more. Did it on his own. When he took on partners, they were junior partners. They were no longer partners that could effectively do something. Only the partnership. He ruled it. He ran it. They became the junior. So here you can see all kinds of things. You can see now that the house ruler here, not only is he a Gemini, all mind. I mean, he invented a calculator that was on paper. So he had a paper calculator. It was called the Gann square of 9. And it was all about the square roots of the numbers. He knew everything he needed to know about numbers. Everything. He strictly believed that everything would repeat. And when he would read something in the Bible, he would take it as a current event. And he would try to find out back at what year that current event was taking place and associate it, and that's where he put his money.
Yeah.
Are there biographies of him?
Yeah, there's a lot of planets, a lot of books out there that talk about him. He claimed that the tunnel through the air, or tunnel through time, is probably, I'll send you guys a copy of this if you want to download it and read it, is probably his best book on who and what he is and what he did. But it's in metaphorical language. It's a love story and a war hero story. And he tells you about dates and things he does and how he did it and what was going on, but it's all metaphorical.
What was the name again?
It's called A Tunnel Through the Air. I'll send you a copy.
Oh,
I'll put that out and you get it, so you can just download it
Okay.
and read it. That was free.
Okay.
It's a good book. It's fun. Actually, it's kind of a fun read. And you get into the story, you go, yeah, okay. But he himself said that that was his most important book on what he did and how he did it.
Did you read it?
4 or 5 times. I ain't got it yet. He said read it 3, you'll have it, but I guess a little thick.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably need to read it more.
I do. Anyway, but it's a fun story. And he gets into astrology in the story because he loses one of his his true love at the age of 21 gets on a train with him, and they're going to go. They go to St. Louis, and from St. Louis they're going to go to New York, where he's going to move. But she gets on board with him, and she goes as far as St. Louis, and she abandons him and leaves him a note.
Oh my.
A note?
He doesn't know what the hell the note says. No, he does know what the note says. This is the other note, this lady. He tries to figure out what has she done. So he goes to an astrologer because he believes in numerology and this. He goes to an astrologer, and an astrologer tells him the exact situation that just took place.
Wow.
That convinced him that astrology is real. So there's that metaphor.
And he used horary then, it sounds like.
He's everything.
Yeah.
This guy's everything. He
Okay.
projected, he did all kinds of things. So I wouldn't just put him in that category. So the story talks about his love and how he discovers astrology through the love. There's how he works his metaphors. How he discovers through circumstances by which he's writing about. Very, very interesting. It's a good book. I'll mail you guys the URL. You can download it and read it and see what you think of it. And we can probably share a rush it.
So what brings in money? He's ruled, it's Mercury that rules that house, right?
Mercury rules all about this house and this house. So he wanted to learn the science of money.
So that's how he makes his money, through his study, through his learning
Right.
and teaching, getting the education.
Education was a main forte of this man.
Very interesting.
And you can see it here just as plain as day. Cool, huh?
Yeah?
Yes.
But now you guys see it a lot clearer because you can see what we're doing with this. Because you can see here, this is the Sun-Jupiter underlying principle, isn't it? So you can
Yeah.
see the great deal of influence that this Sun has from into the 9th house as the underlying principle. But look that this 10th house underlying principle is all about Mars. Drive, drive, drive. And he told everybody, if you will not spend years studying the stock market, you will not learn it. You will not learn how to win it. Because unless you know the cycles, you cannot win at anything. It's always cyclic.
Very interesting.
Everything is cyclic. Everything is cyclic.
And
He says this over and over again. The cycles will always repeat. Those of us who did weather, remember 9, 18, 19, 36, 37, 38, and 54 years are very, very important in weather. So if we take today's unusual warm weather and drop back either 19 or 36 years ago, we're going to see, especially 36 years ago, we're going to see the same kind of warm weather we had.
I remember.
Yeah, we're going to see the same warm weather then, we're having it now. There's one cycle. So we know that this year might be a good year to play the stock market for corn and wheat. Because it's a good season, it's a good growing season. Right now it's cold as hell. Good time to get in. Because all that cold weather is coming down into Canada, from Canada into the wheat states and corn states. It's telling you, every going, uh-oh. Well, that's when you want to go in, is uh-oh. You want to go contrary, don't we? And we move with that. This is what he did.
and you mentioned cycles with the Great Depression and the gold rush too.
Yes, I did mention that. So the discovery of Neptune, secondary hit on this, now it's coming in again.
Those are weather,
We're going on.
for the weather cycle.
What is the weather cycle based on? Is that,
Moon.
The gnomes.
oh, the moon. So then it's like a moon cycle would be, a return. I'm just thinking about a lunar return in my chart is like, what, 56?
Every
or-
9 years.
Every 9 years. So it's a
9,
9-year
18,
cycle.
36, 37, 54.
Okay.
Was that what that was based on?
What?
Those
That's
numbers?
part of it. He
Yeah.
based everything on cycles.
No, but when she mentioned that, then you meant, that was based, you mentioned some other numbers.
The weather
Are
cycles.
those the same numbers that, according to what you said, the moon does, yeah?
Yes.
9,
I think-
18.
I think, yes.
No.
I'm not sure what you asked. Cycles are cycles, and those numbers will always repeat themselves because the moon,
She mentioned some numbers and you mentioned numbers, so I weren't sure if those were the same
what
numbers.
numbers?
Well, you mentioned earlier the cycles of
1936.
weather, and then she mentioned something about the moons and it, and so I didn't know if they were one and the same.
Yes, we're talking weather moon. The first astrology was moon.
Uh-huh.
The first proto-astrology was based on lunar aspects and weather. The Egyptians were the best weather forecasters that ever stepped forth.
Oh, I
The
see.
Babylonians weren't bad either. But they all figured, well, if the moon can do this, obviously the planets do something too. And they always associated the moon with planets to tell us what the weather was.
Because they had
We
their
do the
lights.
same thing
Look at the stars.
when we
That's
do
right.
each quarter. New moon, first quarter, full moon, last quarter. We do that 4 charts to see what the 4th house is telling us and where the moon is and who's associating
That's
it
right.
for that week. That tells us each weekly forecast for the month.
But
You have to remember, he predicted the fall, he predicted the 29 crash a year in advance. And 1929, he wrote a yearly report for quite a few years, but 1929 was the big one because of that crash he reported. But he has month by month readout of how he sees where the stock is going to move. He also, not so much, but he also did another thing. Starting at the spring equinox, he starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's 000 by the time. The next day is 4 minutes later. The next day after that is 4 minutes later.
Oh.
So each day is added 4 minutes all the way around the clock. So by the time you get to something like October 22nd, it's 8:10 in the evening. Now you have to remember, this guy had made an investment that everybody thought he had lost his mind. And he said, no, it's going to hit. He said it'll hit just before noon on the date. So he named the date and the time that this particular stock would make its move. He was on the minute.
Wow.
He was on the minute. They all walked around, they started laughing because he had a few minutes to go. He never put the paper down. On the minute, it just went up and it shot. And they all just jaw dropped.
Kiss their feet.
He was on the minute. This is what Gann did. So he knew something. Trust me, I'm looking for it.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, we got all of this down pretty good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and your support. And I hope you got something.